In this lesson, we're going to be learning about how to format text. First, we're going to take a look at how we're going to do it using the formatting toolbar. Second, we're going to look at using the font dialog box, which gives us a little bit more choices than our toolbar. We're then going to learn a very interesting tool on the toolbar called the Format Painter. Then I'm going to show you how to use styles and formatting. And finally, we're going to take a look at how to highlight text like you would using a highlighter on paper. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is opening up, or I have a file open here called Celebrate, and we're going to take a look at how to use our formatting toolbar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select 100-year anniversary celebration, and we're going to do a few things to this file. You'll notice up on my toolbar that it is currently Times New Roman font, and it is size 16. So the first thing I'm going to do is drop down, and I'm going to choose Arial from the list, and I'm going to make a change. You'll notice that the font changes, but the size currently remains the same. So now I'm going to go over and I'm going to change my font size. I'm going to make it a little bit larger, and I'm going to change it from being font size 12 to 16. Now the next set of buttons that you'll see on your toolbar are the B, the I, and the U, which are for your bold, italic, and underline. Okay, and we're going to hit all three for right now just to take a look at what it will do. And you'll notice if I deselect it, makes it a little bit darker in color, gives it a slant, which is italics, and then underline, puts the line underneath it. I'm going to select that text again, and I'm going to get rid of the underline. So you'll notice it's a toggle button. I can turn it on or turn it off just with one click. The next thing we're going to take a look at is how to change the color, the font color. And you'll notice that if I just click on the font color button, it will give me the color of the text that's currently showing. But if I want to give it a different color, I can drop down and I have my color palette. And so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pick a blue, and you'll notice that the font color, I just picked blue but it looks green. Well, I need to deselect the text in order to see my change. Alright, the next thing we're going to take a look at is how to use the font dialog box. Now, if you recall back to one of the first lessons, we talked about how the toolbar is a shortcut. It contains tools that are commonly used, but if you go into your menu, you have many more options available to you. If I select my text again, 100-year anniversary celebration, and I go to Format and then Character, it brings up my font dialog box, and if I click on Font, you'll notice all those changes that we made on the toolbar, the font, whether it's bold, italic, underline, and size, all occur on this first tab. If I go to Font Effects, this is where I get to choose whether I want it underlined, and I can actually do some more intricate things. I can give the underline a different color if I wanted to. I can still change the color on this screen, but over here on the right hand side we have something called Effects, and I could take my entire text phrase right now and I could put it to capital letters, okay, without having to retype it. If I go back to without, it changes it back. You'll notice that there's always a preview that's happening in the bottom portion. Okay, a couple other special things that we can do here. We can give our text a shadow. We can also do what's called blinking, which won't show until I go back out of the main box. And I can also do something called hidden, which we're not going to talk about right now. Okay, the last tab that I want to show you is positioning, and where this comes in most handy is down in the bottom corner, what's called spacing. And what I can do is I can go to expanded, and I can change my spacing so that there's more space in between each letter, so you can get that your text gives it an expanded look with each, and I can really spread my text out and give it a specific look. Click OK, And I now have my 100-year anniversary celebration. I'm actually going to bump that down a font size or two. There we go. And I'm now going to also center it on the page. Alright, the next thing we're going to take a look at is what's called the Format Painter, and this is actually a pretty cool piece. What I can do is I can highlight a word, and I'm going to make some changes to it. For instance, I'm going to make it bold, and I'm going to give it a font color of red. Okay. Now that I've made this change, what I can do is I can copy the formatting. Not copy the actual word, but copy the way that it looks. So I'm going to highlight Monday, and up here on my toolbar next to my copy, cut, and paste, I have what's called the Format Paintbrush. And I can click on that Format Paintbrush, and now I can click, hold, and drag across another word, and it applies the same formatting changes to the second word that I had on the first word. Now notice that was a once and done use there. As soon as I was done dragging, the Format Painter went away. I went back to my regular cursor. You should have noticed that it looked like a little paint bucket the first time. Okay? So I'm going to highlight this word again, but this time I'm going to double click my paintbrush. And you'll notice I have my little paint bucket. And now I'm going to drag across Wednesday. And you'll notice that my cursor doesn't change back. I'm still the paintbrush. And I'm going to drag across Thursday, and I'm going to drag across Friday. And each time it copies that formatting across, so I now have a consistent look for each day of the week, but I only had to make those formatting changes once. This is really great when you're making multiple formatting changes to a word and you want multiple places in your document to look the same. Now, although this is a pretty cool trick and it really saves you time the first time around, if I decided to change my mind and I wanted to go back and I wanted to make every single one of those words blue, I'd have to manually go back and make each one blue, or use my Format Painter to go back and make it blue again. A better way to go about this is to use what are called styles. And so I'm going to turn my Format Painter off, okay, by clicking on my button. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to select Monday again, and I'm going to make some changes to it. I'm going to make it 14, I'm going to make it underline this time, and I'm going to give it a different font color. And what I'm going to do is up in the style box, you notice that it currently says default. I'm going to give this style a name. So I'm going to call this day of week. Now notice I don't have any spaces in my name, and I'm going to hit the enter key, and I now have created a style called day of week. And this will work very similar like the Format Painter. I can select my font, I can then drop down, and there's my new style. I can click day of week, and I can make my change. Now the first time through I do need to go and make that change on every single one of my days of the week. So now each one of my days of the week is following the rule of that style, which says that it's blue, that it's size 14, it's bold, and it's underlined. Okay, I've changed my mind again. Now I'm going to come back and I say, you know what, I really want the words Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to be red. Okay, now all I need to do is change that style in one place, and every single one of those words will update itself. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to hit my Styles and Formatting button. And little trick here, you'll notice that days of the week is not showing up in the list. So I'm going to switch to character styles and then back to paragraph styles, and it'll refresh the list, and you'll see that day of week is now currently there. If I right click that selection, I can say modify, and I can now go to my font effects, and I'm going to say, you know what, I really don't want it to be blue, but at this point I'd like it to be red. I now click OK, And you'll notice that immediately my style takes effect and every single one of those words changed the very first time. I don't need to go back and change each one of them. So if you get in the habit of using styles, it can really save you a lot of time because you don't have to go back and make formatting changes if you ever change your mind. If it's a once and done kind of idea, using the Format Painter is a quick way to go ahead and do it. Okay, so I'm going to close out of this. The last thing we're going to talk about is highlighting text like you would with an actual pen and paper highlighter. And what I'm going to do is select my text, and then on my toolbar next to my font color I have a highlighter. Notice by default it's yellow. If I wanted a different highlighting color, I could use the little drop down arrow beside it and I could get a multitude of colors to highlight with. I'm going to stick with yellow. Once again, to see your highlighting, you're going to have to deselect your text and then you will see the highlighted text.